Well, so I had some thoughts today, and what's been kind of showing up, it's coming out of clearly the last couple of days of kind of amazing conversations and some of your responses to the videos that I've been making, and what's been showing up is this, it's like a dialectic or an opposition between two polarities. And I think what's been showing up is I've been thinking about the nature of deep emotions and grief and these painful experiences that can overwhelm our ego, and why that's actually not necessarily a bad thing. In fact, in many ways, despite sometimes the very real pain and sadness that the experiences bring, it's actually a deep gift in a lot of ways, because when something overwhelms our ego, it takes us beyond it. So that's been kind of one area that's been showing up for me. And then this other area that's been showing up is, well, what does it really take for us to really change? What does it really take for us to live fully into that side of ourselves, the space, to let that energy power through us, and just so that we are being lived by an energy force. I'm not living my life, I'm being lived by consciousness. Because there's this way in which I sometimes feel like my experience is, there are times when I feel like I'm making it happen. I know what I'm doing. My ego has a sense of what it's doing. And there are other times when my ego has no idea what it's doing. And what I've found is, whether the ego knows what it's doing or not really doesn't matter. The only thing that affects is how we feel about what's happening. It doesn't really change what's happening usually. Because the space, this consciousness, this space in which literally everything is happening, and everything is only ever being observed by consciousness. Consciousness doesn't intersect with manifestation. It doesn't enter the world. It's in the world, but not of it. It's the frame. It's the perceiving force, but not and the thing itself, but also not the thing itself. And when we're living from there, it's like it's blowing through our body, grabbing things it needs, just using the ego whatever way it needs to. It's using my memories, it's using my thoughts, it's using my skills, it's using my ideas, it's using my voice, it's using anything it needs to express what wants to come through into the world. And that's why when we see highly realized people, and they're very personable, and they're very down to earth, and they're very funny, and they seem very self-possessed, it's easy to mistake that for just a really high-functioning ego. But it's not the same thing. The ego is being operated by this larger force. And when we really get that, when that's really clear, it's like a whole new world opens up. Because now no more questions need to be asked about the ego. What does the ego need to do? What does the ego want? What does the ego require? What does there are all these questions about what the ego requires in order to feel like it's, I don't know, getting what it needs out of life, right? A lot of times ego programming is just trying to help us survive. But when we know that all of that it's the tool, not the workman, or it's the tool but not the job. It's like we stop looking at our ego and asking what this ego should be doing. The absolute comes through, grabs the ego, and just drives it. And honestly, the biggest challenge that I'm facing and that I'm recognizing in conjunction with this is just the amount of letting go that's required in order to let that happen effectively. Because it really kind of is like being on the highway and letting go of the steering wheel, because for whatever reason we know our car is self-driving even though it was before they had that or something. It's like it's a real act of faith. But it's also an act of the most deep and secure conviction we could ever have, because it's like nothing that's coming from the ego is actually secure in any way. Everything the ego generates is based on knowing it's going to die, trying to prevent that from happening, trying to make sure that if it does die, it's promoted itself. There's a whole litany of biological things the ego has to do, thinks it has to do. But we are arriving as human beings at a place where we know that those biological and psychological and emotional needs, even though we still have them, our bodies still need what they need, our emotions still need what they need, our emotional life still needs, they're genuine needs. They're just not cosmic needs. The absolute will satisfy all of those needs. They'll be lifted from us. And exactly what God needs, he's going to grab. Exactly what the universe needs to bring into the world, it will grab on its way through our ego. Whether or not we know that's what it needs, none of that. It's like this. The sensation that I have is like I'm closing my eyes and like trust falling, or literally my body's starting to hover. There are these interesting physical sensations I get when I get a glimpse of that feeling. And what comes through more than anything is just this sense of faith. There's a faith there because I know something more true than anything I could think or even anything I could feel is there, is present, and is animating me. So yeah, that's what's coming through today. It feels big, and it feels like it's a reconciliation of the last several days of kind of wrestling with some of these big emotional realms and my own kind of resistance realm. It's all kind of opening up into this feeling of profound faith and a profound vulnerability in that, and also a profound conviction and power that instantly show up. So, yeah, that's where I'm at today, people. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you all. You mean so much to me. I'm truly discovering the universe through this relationship. So, deeply grateful. Much love to you. I'll see you tomorrow.